Morning, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to another episode of the Daily Bone podcast, where we discuss all things crypto markets. That includes the majors like Bitcoin, Ethereum, Solana, meme coins, and of course, NFTs. Today, we're going to be discussing the conflict in Iran and how this is affecting global markets. We're going to talk about Anthropic being deemed a national security threat by the United States and Hyperliquid taking center stage over the weekend. Token seeing green despite a broader market pullback. Thank you all for listening. It's a tough day today. Lots going on in the global landscape. We're going to try to keep you informed and entertained. We're not global geopolitical experts, but we will give our takes on how this situation can potentially affect markets. If you're listening over on X, give us a like, comment, retweet, bookmark, push us out there in the algorithm. If you're listening over on YouTube, drop a comment. Let us know that you're here. And if you're listening over on Zora, where we stream each and every day, give us a comment there as well. We'll be reading those. I'm joined today by Signal, by Easy. Glad to see everyone here is safe. Sig, it's been a week. A lot's happened. We've had a pretty crazy week. How are you feeling right now, given all the turmoil and what's going on?
It's been such a crazy year. This has felt like the longest February in such a long time. I feel like 3 months has passed in February alone. That's kind of how it feels like in terms of the news cycle. Just so much has come out in the last 2 months. It's difficult to stay on top of everything, and even to process everything that is coming through, whether it's domestic scandals, international scandals, war going on in several different zones. There's just so much happening right now that when you kind of think about, what is the point of this podcast? We're here to talk about the crypto markets, but it just seems that all of January and all of February, we've been not talking about it. And our focus has just really been on the macro and geopolitically, the drivers there. And it just really goes to show you, you really have to take a world view and not just look on our tiny part of the market to be able to really understand what's going on. Feels really overwhelming, I have to say. Being on Twitter as well, it was interesting to see that stat that, X, being on X, to see the statistic that it's had its highest usage ever with what's been happening in the world right now. And a lot has happened on X since X has been around. A lot has happened. So for it to be culminating right now, it just goes to show you, I think that part of it could be that a lot of people are now not taking their news from mainstream media, maybe because they consider it to be slower, maybe because they consider it not to have enough of diverse information, that there's more on the street reporting coming from real people in the zones that are affected, which is pushing people to go to platforms like X to actually understand what's going on. But yeah, I really hope everyone is safe out there. I know a lot of people who sort of moved to Dubai over the last and the UAE over the last couple of years. So wishing them the best out there. But yeah, a lot's been going on.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, there's tons to talk about. We'll get into how it affects our little corner of the market. Easy, how was your weekend? What have you been up to?
I went to Universal yesterday.
Ooh, how was it?
I don't go on rides.
You don't go on rides?
Mm-mm.
No rides?
No, so I went to the movies.
The movies at Universal?
Mm-hmm.
What do you say?
I was with a group. They all went on rides. I went to the movies.
What movie did you see?
Crime 101 with Chris Hemsworth, Mark Ruffalo, and Halle Berry.
Was it good?
You ever see the movie Heat?
No.
Yeah.
It's like Heat, just worse.
Crime, Heat.
Oh, okay. Right. Wait, sorry. Could I? Sorry, I was just
about a
processing
thief in
something.
LA following their
Did you
journey.
say don't go on rides? When you go to Disneyland, and you don't go on the roller coaster?
There's some, but I don't they have all the screens and stuff now, and I get wicked motion sick from those. So I've done them before. That's the thing. I've done rides before, but I get motion sick, and it lasts a large majority of the day. So it's easier for me to just not ruin my day and just hang out, because I'm wow, that's saying yeah, dude, I know that if I drop a brick on my foot, it's going to hurt and it'll be uncomfortable to walk for an extended period of time. So let me just drop a brick on my foot. Why would I do that? I know I know that in the moment it'll be fine. Following that, I will be uncomfortable. So why would I do something that would just make me not feel good?
No, I get that. It's just I've met a lot of people who've had motion sickness, and they kind of like, it stops at roller coasters. So I feel for you. I feel for you because I think roller coasters are like one of the most fun things you can do
So
on earth at any
he
age.
loves them. So like they went on them. Like I'll do water rides and stuff because like that stuff's fine. Like I can get wet. I can do the drops. The drops aren't crazy because it's fucking water, you know? But like the roller coasters and other stuff, I've done them. That's not that's not an issue. I've been on them, but it just ruins my day. And I got stuck driving. So on top of it, like, do I want to drive for an hour and change while feeling like shit? Like, that doesn't make any sense.
No, I get it. I get it.
I'll just get on that. But other than that, we had a very profitable last few days with prediction markets, which was great. The Elon tweet markets are the ones that I enjoy. Like for whatever reason, I've been doing well with those. I hit on the actor awards last night, which there was a huge upset for those unaware. The best male actor in a film, everyone thought it was going to be Timothée Chalamet. He just swept before. It ended up being Michael B. Jordan for Sinners. So it was a 4X if you took that. But the byproduct of that was his Oscar potential went from 7% to 30%. So, like, even if you missed the actor awards, you could have bought him yes for the Oscars and caught a 400% gain, which was like a pretty aggressive move. I hit on Sinners for Outstanding Picture. That one was, I got it at 65 cents, which I was hyped about. Yeah, like that's an absolute cook. He was at 7%. So it seems like the actor awards had a pretty big push, especially because the BAFTAs and a couple of the others went to Timothée Chalamet for Marty Supreme. And historically, if you know the Oscars, they don't like the young white male actor for the awards. They like someone who's more seasoned, tenured. Look at Leo and his history here. And a lot of people think that Timmy might have the same kind of situation. Also, for those that don't like the movie Sinners, you're an idiot. That movie was incredible. Michael B. Jordan played the two main characters. It was sick. Really, really enjoyed that movie. But I also enjoyed Marty Supreme, to be fair. But yeah, these odds were pretty aggressive. And now there's the best actor, which is the main award for the night, has a pretty interesting market where there's a fair argument for either one. But truthfully, I'm kind of leaning Michael B. Jordan. I think they give it to the to Sinners.
Do you think, or have you looked back at this to see if there's any kind of correlation in that previous?
So there is
with the Oscar.
Yeah, so there is correlation across the board. The bigger thing though is, and I saw the comment before, or I saw the comment after I threw like $50 at Timothée Chalamet to win the actor award last night. The actor awards have never in the history of the awards given the main award to the best actor of the year award to the same actor in back-to-back years. So that was like, and they gave it to Timmy last year for Dune. So that was something I probably should have looked more into. I did not do enough research beforehand. The Oscars are in 14 days. So 2 weeks, 13 days, right? I think it's a Saturday. I want to say it's the 15th. But
I'm going to say for Timmy, it's the best thing for his career not to win an Oscar.
I agree. Because it's going to keep the fire going.
Yeah, it keeps a fight. And when you win an Oscar, a lot of actors then go on to get pigeonholed into the role that they won the Oscar for. I remember Lupita Nyong'o saying that actually winning an Oscar so early into her career for that role, all she got was scripts which were similar to the film that she got it for. But the people who haven't had them, they go on to do great things because they have to keep fighting for it. And then they have to do more diverse things because they don't want to be pigeonholed into one role. So I think it's good for Timmy if he doesn't win.
I love that because I'm a big Tim guy, and
yeah, he's good, huh?
I loved him in Dune, but you know what I think his best movie is Wonka.
Oh yeah, there you go. He is in fact in Wonka.
I do have kids though that so I'm biased on what I'm watching. I'm not watching his latest movie. I'm watching Wonka 9 times in a row.
The Leo situation, a lot of people thought Leo deserved it for Great Gatsby, which I still stand by. And then of course Wolf of Wall Street before winning it for Revenant. So like
that guy should have Leo should have like so many Oscars under his belt. He's done.
You're in a competitive space with that where each of those years have been some pretty good movies. This year, it's going to come down to either Sinners, which as a film has absolutely swept the awards across the board, swept the awards. Like, it has been regarded as the best movie this last year. It's just absolutely dominated. From sound production to best picture to a bunch. Like, I think the one battle after another is very interesting here for this. Because that one hasn't historically won a bunch, which is why I'm like, this might be an interesting toss-up here. Like,
you like the value at Sinners at 14%?
I do. I actually think Sinners is good value here.
Is K-pop Demon Hunters in here in any kind of way?
Animated. It'll win Best Oscar for the animated series.
Best movie,
animated film.
I've also seen that about 100 times.
Yeah, it's a 91% chance that it wins Best Animated Feature Film, which I think is like an absolute. I think you take the bond because that shit. It's against Zootopia 2, which just came out. Arco, Little Amelia, and Elio. And Elio's a Disney movie. K-pop's going to just absolutely win that. Like,
oh yeah, and best soundtrack as well.
Best soundtrack will be interesting.
Options for soundtrack?
I don't think there's an Oscar for soundtrack, but best sound winner is on there.
Original song.
Original song. Yeah.
So best original song will be Golden by K-pop Demon Hunters, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I like this Oscars page that they made.
Yeah, it's pretty cool.
This is cool.
And everything.
Yeah, this is good. I like this.
That's gonna be my first dance song. I've decided.
I was a ghost. I was alone.
My daughter's not quite old enough for K-pop Demon Hunters yet. So
I remember literally it was last year we were driving up on a family trip. My oldest had her iPad in the back. She's like, I want to watch this new movie on Netflix. I'm like, what's it called? K-pop Demon Hunters. I'm like, no chance. You just hear the title and you're like, that is not meant for you. But then eventually we looked it up and we're like, it has a good story. So that's good.
That's funny. We were on a road trip this weekend, and it was like the first time my daughter had an iPad in the car with Zootopia 2. We drove like 4-hour road trip to see a friend, and she was just like absolutely like into it. Like she had like the biggest smile on her face the whole time, being able to like hold the TV. Is what she was saying. So it was funny. Interesting. So Easy, what are you taking here? A couple Sinners, long shots, or I guess.
I think you take best supporting actor. You take Sean Penn at 78%.
Okay,
which I like that one a lot. The other ones that I'm like definitely interested in, the best actor one is like the biggest one that I'm like most interested in because Michael B. Jordan's odds like absolutely skyrocketed. So that's like the big thing. I think that one's really interesting personally. You could take Amy Madigan for best supporting actress. That one's going to be tough because of weapons. Tiana Taylor in One Battle After Another won at the BAFTAs, and Amy Madigan won at the SAG Awards or Actor Awards. So that one's also going to be fairly close. Yeah, there's going to be some good awards here. The Sean Penn one I really like. I think that one's probably going to be a lock. Best original song, 87% for K-pop Demon Hunters for sure.
What about these Oscar counts like Sinners? More or less.
So the one I actually do like is Frankenstein to win 3.
Frankenstein to win 3.
Yeah, because maybe that one actually I might even take the no on that. Maybe. Because they have production design and hair makeup and hairstyling, which I think they win at least 2. Costume design, they're gonna win 3. They'll win 3. 3 at 77 cents, I think is a great value. I would throw bids on that and just absolutely take it. They're gonna win 3.
Yeah, you can bid at 73 cents, right?
Because they'll get costume design, hair and makeup, and production design. I think those 3 are all
like hedge out after some of these ones. I'm interested what the order is of like.
That's the thing. If Sinners wins an earlier award, you will probably see Michael B. Jordan get a run up.
Marty Supreme looks like it's like 0 or 1 for Marty Supreme. So it's only the best. They would only get best actor for Marty Supreme. It looks like that's what this is essentially saying, and that those odds obviously fell significantly since the other award show. Interesting. Kix, you sent me.
No, I just had to send. I'm on a VPN and I couldn't access the article, so you're just my last chat. So I just sent it so I could read on my phone.
Love it. Just using our chat channel to pull up links. All right. Anyway, we have a lot to talk about. We're going to talk more about the conflict. We're going to talk about prediction markets resolutions. Kix is on. I'm sure he has a lot to say here. We had a lot of drama in prediction markets over the weekend. Before we do, and before we get into the weather report today, we're going to let you know that today's show is brought to you in partnership with Awaken. It's tax season again. We are absolutely back. If you traded crypto at all this year, you need to check out Awaken. It's the best tax platform for serious traders. It makes all of our lives much more easier. I use it personally. I think everyone on the team uses it personally. Easy has signed up for their white glove service where he gets them to just go through all the transactions. Makes it even easier on him that he doesn't have to really worry about like tagging things, making sure that everything's all set. Great portfolio tracker as well over at Awaken. You can plug in all of your wallets free of charge. You only pay when you need to get into the tax reporting side of things. I can't say enough good things. We've been working with them last year, working with them again this year. Tax deadline just over a month away. Perfect time to start. Get your transactions all tagged. And you can save 20% off if you go to bodoggos.com/awaken today. Love Awaken. Easy. How's that white glove service been treating you?
Oh, it's amazing. I actually need to go through and like reconcile a bunch of stuff that I haven't done. They've made it very, very easy. There's only like a couple hundred things that I actually have to do for it versus thousands. So it's become exceptionally easier.
And if I can just give a quick shill, I started using Awaken before they even sponsored the show. Many people know I did a ton of trading in 2021, very complex. I tried 2 different services before Awaken, and Awaken was night and day better. And if I may say something, when I used it last year, one of the best things about Awaken right now is the easy integration into centralized exchanges to pull and reconcile your activity there. Because the number one way in the United States for you to get audited for your crypto activity is if your forms, your tax forms don't line up with what the exchanges are reporting. It's just a quick automated way for the IRS to see if there's a mismatch there. And it's very easy to have unintentional mismatches there due to things like cost basis. So for example, if you send money to, or if you send Ethereum to Coinbase, it doesn't know your cost basis on that. Awaken can help you reconcile that because having errors there is the number one way for your tax return to get flagged.
Yeah, there's so many things. They also have auditing, AI auditing now that looks at all your cost bases and looks at what you're submitting in your forms and gives you like suggestions like, hey, the way you tag this transaction, it has 0 cost basis for a large gain. This is a big red flag that auditors might ask about.
I love that. Yeah, I actually used the AI and it told me, it said, based on your trading activity, you should sell all your crypto and put it in the S&P 500 because you're not that good and you spend a lot of time doing it.
Yeah, I think that's the right thing. Tristan asked, does it support ordinals and runes? I just went to their integrations page and they had an article talking about Bitcoin and runes taxes. So I'm assuming it does. I haven't dug deep into that side of it yet. I'm still tagging things and I haven't put my ordinals wallet in. So I'll let you know what happens there. And we have the good response from Risk saying, Tristan, it assumes you've lost everything on those. And
Just imagine like an IRS auditor like looking at Bitcoin trends, like because it's not even like, you know what I mean? Like it's not even like an NFT on Ethereum, right? It's like sitting on a SAT. Like it's got to be the most confusing like transaction things to look at. Okay, cool. You sent 1 SAT that's worth like a penny. No. It's not worth a penny. There's an image on top of it that's worth way more that I need to write off.
We're just trying to explain that. It like shows you the need for having software that can do it for you. This is what I found to be the best software. We continue to use it, continue to partner with them because it's just a great product and it's very easy to recommend to our listeners and our community. So bodoggos.com/awaken, 20% off.
That's great. I need to use that. I think I've been playing full price. I could have got a discount this whole time.
Absolutely. That being said, let's kick it off with a little weather report here, Sig.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's get into Monday, March 2nd. Looking at that crypto roundup, the majors pulled back over the weekend with Bitcoin just over 64K, Ethereum over 1,900, Solana $83, and Hype back over $30. Over the past weekend, US and Israel launched a large-scale bombing operation in Iran, killing Supreme Leader Khamenei. Khamenei. Iran has retaliated with missiles targeting US and Israeli military compounds, as well as ships passing through the Strait of Hormuz. Next up, Bloomberg highlighted hyperliquid commodity trading during off-hour volatility, pointing to price action on commodities such as oil trading on the platform. While global markets were closed, US equities fell over 1% in pre-market trading amidst the conflict. And then finally, the Pentagon has declared Anthropic a national security risk after talks with Anthropic on removing guardrails fell through. The government signed a deal with the devil, OpenAI. That is all for the weather report. It is back to you in the studio.
Excellent weather report as always, Signal. I found this Anthropic OpenAI news interesting. On Friday, as that deal was closing, Sam Altman came in and was like, hey, let me help you guys out and broker a deal here between the government and Claude. Probably saw all the sticking points and then just brokered their own deal. So hold on. I'm hearing some music from your side, Sid.
It's off.
I wasn't hearing it during the weather report. I played my music during the weather report. Interesting.
Yeah, we still haven't figured out what's going on there. But I felt like, Sam is quickly becoming the Lex Luthor of the OpenAI world. I'm like, yeah, I know.
He acts like one too.
Yeah, he does. I know everyone else came to that conclusion, like probably a long time ago, but I was still like, give the guy a chance. No. He is Lex Luthor for sure.
He's got some weird energy.
Dude, dark energy, this guy.
Dark energy, 100%.
Yeah.
I feel like anybody who's that deep into AI and has that much control over this extreme power that's shaping the global macroeconomic, social, global, political, like everything, I feel like you have to have some.
It attracts dark triad traits.
Yeah, you have those. Essentially, they're saying that safety guardrails are going to be built into the OpenAI side of things. I've seen a ton of back and forth on like what happened here. I saw like the government was like posing hypotheticals to like the Anthropic CEO saying like
that was bad.
A missile is going to a nuclear power plant, and the only way to stop it is like using autonomous systems powered by Claude. He's like, well, you could give us a phone call and we'll work something out.
And you couldn't write a better script for this debate to happen, days before the US-Israel-Iran conflict, where you're seeing defensive autonomous weapons weapon systems trying to take down missiles and drones and stuff like that. It's a very complex problem. There's no easy answer. If there's an easy answer, I think people on both sides of the debate here are reasonable. It's not an easy answer.
I feel like it's just
so this. Ray, I have to ask, like, Ray, from a tech point of view, because you're the techie amongst us. One thought that I had about this is that I always assumed that government agencies would have AI way beyond what we have in the public realm, whether you're paying $20 per month or where you're paying $200 or more. I always thought their capabilities were light years ahead. And then to see them partner with these new companies kind of made me stop and think, well, maybe they're not. Like, what's your take on this in terms of what the public is using? And like when I say public, I mean, paying for the most expensive tiers versus where you think these internal agencies are in the world of AI.
I think that internal models or models that they're providing to the government directly to the Pentagon, I think are light years ahead of what we have currently. I don't think they're on the same public model. I think that same like government advantage holds true. I can't point to anything that's saying this for sure, but I imagine they're getting cutting edge models before cutting edge models are public. They're getting access to like latest R&D stuff, some like very specific models that are trained on defense data, surveillance data, whatever the government needs. I think that exists. I think that people are now just kind of seeing like the power of it in public, and they're like, oh, the government's on the same page as I just don't think that's the case. And I think that they continue to just have, more advanced capabilities.
Yeah, I think additional context too is the fact that, like even China does this, but like the US is like very known for like, the government contracts a lot of the work to private companies, right? So like the private companies are the drivers of the innovation, right? And then the government utilizes it, like similar to see like kind of how NASA has kind of faded over time, but in SpaceX is now like, being used for that. But what I would say to your point, Signal, is that there's levels of tiers in like the Department of Defense in terms of like classification and stuff like that, meaning that like the Department of Defense is massive, right? So like having an internal Claude tool, like they actually leaked about or it came out about like how they used it for Venezuela, right? Like they're using Claude to like go through all, like for example, imagine you just have like tons of documents about Venezuela capabilities, CIA reports, all these different things. And then you can have Claude like run through all of this information and give you like analysis back. Like if we did this, what's our probability take? But I'm with you, Sig. I think at the very high tiers, like top classified information or classified systems, there's stuff even more advanced than what the Department of Defense is using Claude for. I'm with you on that. Like NSA level stuff. NSA has some of the smartest people in the world, right? They have systems, AI systems that are probably above even what the Department of Defense average classified guys using with Claude would be my guess. So
yeah,
it's a little of both.
It just made me think like the only direction we can go with these companies is that they become like the best companies or that the companies who have the best algorithms will become national security assets. You can't have 100%. A world with a private company having more cutting edge models or closer to cutting edge models than what its sovereign country has. And
just like SpaceX. SpaceX is a national security thing for America. Actually, crazy fact, the U.S. deployed for the first time, essentially they're calling them kamikaze drones, right? That similar to Iran Shahed drones that you basically just fly them into something, right? To blow up. And a picture was taken of one of them and it has a Starlink terminal on the back of it. And so what that means is that it's able to communicate solely with satellite, right? Not like earth to earth signals that can get jammed more easily. So that's just a perfect example of like SpaceX technology is literally being integrated into, US military drones. So I'm with you. I think that like all of these AI companies are going to have to do this. And I think as the American people or as the people of the world, what you need to do is you need to elect leaders that you trust are going to create laws and rules and frameworks that dictate how the government is able to use these things, right? And I think that's the meat of the debate here, is that the private companies are trying to put guardrails on how the government can use it. And the government is arguing that these guardrails should be put on by the government itself and the American people and the lawmakers that put these laws in. And now I understand we've had issues with that, like, the Patriot Act and things in America where the government abuses or circumvents these laws and regulations. But at the end of the day, you don't want to hamstring the company that the country that defends yourself and your employees when, over in China, there's no question about this. They don't get to have a debate in public. They'll black bag your CEO. He'll disappear. Maybe he'll come back in a couple of years, or maybe you never see him again. And they're going to get everything.
Yeah, it's for me, just this situation with Venezuela, Iran, I suppose because it's so like everything's back to back, everything's getting faster. All this information is coming out at a speed which I feel like was not there 24 months ago. Yes. It just sort of shows you this technology in the public realm and how it's being used. The future that people are predicting and the impact that it's going to have on everything is happening at a speed which you can't quite keep up with. And now I'm really starting to understand why so many of the important figures within AI recently just sort of disappeared. We're just like writing their letters of resignation and just disappearing off to the countryside somewhere. I'm going to a farm. And you know, this is what we're seeing on this side. Imagine what they were seeing being on the inside. So yeah, it's
I mean, Dario, the CEO of Anthropic, said not enough people appreciate that we're at the end of the exponential, like, you know, like the exponential curve, right? Like we're at the end where the advancement, to your point, is just so insane and so fast that it's hard to even, you know, comprehend. I'm definitely a utopian guy, but it can be scary at times. You know, I understand why people can be scared.
I think it's scary sorry, Rafe, if you want to move on, you can shut me up at any moment. But I was going to say, I think for me, it's scary at times because I think governments move too slowly versus the regulation that will need to be put in place. It's like you have these older figures who are in power, and underneath them, their subordinates are people who look after digital policy or AI policy, trying to tell them this needs to be put in place. And they're like, that's not important right now. We need to do something else. And that's what kind of scares me, that the policies being put in place are not fast enough to keep up what's happening with the technology.
You need to watch this movie, Johnny Depp, Transcendence, 2016. It's according to our own timeline, this is probably 2028, 2029 is when you'll see stuff like this. Like it's wild. It's a phenomenal movie. I'd put it up there with like Ex Machina in terms of Machina or whatever, in terms of, you know, AI kind of futuristic scenarios. Okay, I had a hell of a weekend, by the way. Can I tell you all my weekend?
Yeah.
Okay. Tell us. So Friday night I go to sleep. So me and my business partner Tyriel have been trading together on Polymarket, and we're trying to just validate that we can be net profitable over a large sample size, and then we're going to put more money behind it. And so we've been doing it for about 2 months now. On Friday night, I go to bed. Our portfolio is at all-time highs, like really good all-time highs. Like we're up like 30-40% on our trading for 2 months. So feeling absolutely great. I wake up at 4 a.m. and make the mistake on Saturday morning at 4 a.m. I make the mistake of looking at my phone, and Tyriel texted me and said, "Trump just struck Iran. Fug." And I run down to my computer because Nick got a little greedy. Let's just say if the US struck Iran a day later, our portfolio would be up another 20%. Instead, I log in and we're down 20% in hours. Like I'm talking like the P&L chart is like this, and it's like a patient dying. So I'm like, I just fucked up. And I put a big hole in the P&L, and I literally grinded for 16 hours on Saturday, trying to make it back. And so we went down 20%, and now as of today, I made 70% of the losses back.
Dude, that's crazy that you have to put in 16 hours to get not even whole on the losses from that. But I know you were pretty big on like the nothing happens.
What I was doing is I was getting greedy. I was long. I thought it was going to happen. So I was long on like March 31st strikes, right? But I got greedy and I was riding nose by February 28th, right? So I was basically, if it happened between March 1st and March 31st, we were going to make a lot of money. If it didn't happen at all, we were going to break even. If it happened by February 28th, we were going to take a big L. And it happened February 28th. My losses were nowhere near some people out there. I've talked about them on the show. Annoying 123 lost $6.5 million.
Yeah, that was a huge hit for him. He was on almost every no, right?
Yeah. The only yeses he's on was on Russia-Ukraine ceasefire, which he's down on as well. Yeah,
that's P&L of minus $6.89 million.
Yeah,
all time.
So the moral of the story is sometimes things do happen.
Yeah, so he was trading. He went from 0 P&L December 29th. Basically, new year, ran it all the way up to 2 mil P&L as of Friday, and then essentially lost all of that and is now in the negatives.
Yeah. And his positions were so high, it would have been, even if he knew 12 hours in advance the strikes are going to happen, he would not be able to get out of his positions. He was too far deep into them.
Right.
But over the weekend,
he did a resolution on them. He couldn't exit early.
He had to carry the resolution. There wasn't enough liquidity to get out, even if he wanted to. But over the weekend, there was incredible opportunities to make money on the Iran markets. One thing I've learned in prediction markets is that when there's a volatile world event, the amount of inefficiencies in the market are incredible. And if you can absorb data and information quickly and come to your own conclusions on probabilities, there's lots of money to be made. So I'm thankful for that, because I was able to bring back the P&L where we actually finished February in the green. We were up, and then we were we were up 20% in February. Then we were down so bad, and I grinded it back up at a great cost to my family mental health.
How did you make it back, Kits? Because it's interesting, because so in the last 2 weeks, I thought X has been really good at timing when this was going to happen. So 2 weeks ago, I want to say 2 weeks ago, I saw a tweet from a guy being like, my niece has gone off somewhere, and the niece was in the military, and it's like, with no notice, she's gone overseas.
Yeah.
Then there was the information about the planes moving over and the ships moving. That was all over the feed. And then this week, when it really accelerated, was when different countries were telling their people, like, you need to leave, which was happening.
That was the sign on Friday. On Friday, Germany, US, a bunch of people were like, get out of the country today.
Yeah. So question mark, how is it you managed to get the timing wrong when that information was public and kind of over our feeds? And then more interestingly, how did you recover?
Yeah. So the funny thing, Trump actually said 10 days before the strikes, they have 10 days to make a deal. And he struck 10 days later. So he literally laid it out on a platter. Yeah, I'd say it was mostly just greed is why I took the losses. Also some of my hedges were good and I just got unlucky. So I had a hedge that Iran wouldn't hit Qatar, and they intercepted every single missile except for one. But yeah, it was mostly just getting greedy, because the prices were shooting up on like February 28th. Leading into it, like a couple days prior. And so I was just trying to like thread a needle. I knew it was going to happen. I also thought another thing that threw me off a little bit, and the tricky thing is you can get too much information on the timeline, and it can start to affect your own biases, right? They scheduled a meeting for Monday, another diplomatic meeting. And I thought Trump was going to give it until Monday and then potentially strike the next week. But it was really just greed and trying to push for more profits. But I made it back in a variety of different markets. I could talk about a few of them. So one was, would Iran close the Strait of Hormuz? I traded the piss out of that market. And made good money on that. Another one was,
are you taking the no here as it spiked? Yes, right afterwards and into the conflict.
Yeah, so I was doing a variety of things. One was like taking yes on certain dates and no on other dates. There was like mispricings due to the volatility. Mm-hmm. And so I've basically built up a basket where I'll make a little bit of money if it happens in March, and I'll make a lot of money if it doesn't happen in March, is the current positioning right now. It's actually in a very interesting market. They put a rules clarification in there, but based on my data, there's a decent probability that it will hit the 80% drop. But then the kicker is whether the 80% drop is attributed to the Iran government. The Iran government publicly has said we're not closing the Strait of Hormuz, but then they've also done things like blown up or shot missiles at like 2 or 3 tankers, and there have been recorded audio from the Iranian military to individual tankers saying, "Do not come through the strait, or we will bomb you." So that one is a tricky one. I made a lot of money on Kamani out. There was early reports Saturday morning coming from Israel that they killed Kamani in the markets. The markets didn't react. If you go like maybe on the 1 week, you'll see more of, yeah. So I got it down there at 10.
Interesting.
But then I also hedged it out on the way up, and then I was able to sell. I sold out of the yes at 96 and then held the no, and then it spiked down right there where your thing was just, and I was, yeah, right there, and I was able to sell the no at 20. So like I double won on that one. And then there was a market on whether US or Israel,
because there's that news that came out that said like he was going to give us like an announcement or something in like an hour or whatever,
and then he didn't show up. That was not a good sign. And then I made a good amount of money on there's markets. Did the US/Israel strike a nuclear facility, and did they strike oil and gas? And no on oil and gas was a big hit. And Trump's been very clear that he's not like they don't want to hit infrastructure because they want to allow whoever takes over to have like a functioning economy. This one's still in review. It's because it's a little bit of a tricky situation, but it was still profitable for me. But yeah, the other interesting thing that happened is I think so many whales and market makers on Polymarket got blown out being on the no side, that there was not a lot of market making on these things. So it was a lot of just retail flows that created crazy amounts of volatilities. Like, for example, at certain points in time on the Strait of Hormuz closing, you had June yes priced higher than December yes.
Yeah, it's wild.
So like, which is just logically impossible, right? It's impossible that June could be higher than December, because if June resolves, December also resolves, right? So there was just wild mispricings like that, where you could essentially make close risk-free or very close to risk-free money.
Yeah, because I feel like when you see an event like this happen, there's a lot of liquidity put on the books by the nothing ever happens people. Those are the people supporting a lot of the book liquidity,
exactly,
having bids on the market, owning these no positions, and then they got blown out, and now there's uncertainty. So you would think,
and if you lost a lot of your cash, you don't have cash to market make it back. Like, so it was just gone. Like the books on some of these things were just incredibly thin. So then you have retail people buying into thin books and taking things up 20% that should go up 5%.
Right. That's interesting. So like, lesson learned, next time there is volatility around an event, especially when something happens on the something happens side of it, look for correlated future markets and volatility, and then try to be.
Or like, for example, pull up the Qatar market. It may be resolved, but see if it's still in review. Looks like it's resolved. So go to see all results.
Which Qatar market am I going to look at in here?
Striked by February 28th. On the right's resolved. Cool. Iran strike on Qatar right there at the bottom of your screen. That one. February 28th. If you look at the graph on like the 1 week, so you see like whereas like look like in the early afternoon on February 28th, where it was at. It was in the 70s or the 80s.
Mm-hmm.
Like a little bit back from there. Like that last spike right there. At that point in time, I literally saw a video that leaked out of a U.S. soldier that literally filmed a missile hitting a bass and guitar. So like if you saw that, you pretty much have a free money yes, right? So like if you can stay on Twitter and absorb information and know it's real and know it's false,
know what's AI generated and what actually is legitimate.
Yeah, if you see on Twitter, I literally am asking Grok, like, how do you know this video isn't like from an old conflict or something? And then I even asked him, like, how do you know that wasn't like an intercepted missile that struck? You know, like was and he's like, no, that was not an intercepted missile. That was like a successful strike. And so I sold my position for a loss, but I could have flipped to the yes.
You're on the bargaining side of grieving. You're like,
yeah,
no, it's not quite that. It's this.
Yeah.
We saw an interesting market close on Kalshi. I saw you tweeting about it over the weekend with death markets. What's the TLDR here? What's Kalshi's position and what? How does it affect like your thought process on these connected markets? I'm very curious.
Yeah, so there's a U.S. regulation or law that says you can't have assassination or war prediction markets. And I guess that is kind of a little bit up to interpretation, right? Like, so does an assassination market mean like, will this person be killed, right? Or is an assassination market, will this person be removed from office? And then if they get assassinated, what happens to that market? And that's the problem that Kalshi ran into, is that Kalshi basically said that since Kamani was assassinated, the Kamani out market cannot resolve to yes, and instead they basically rolled back the market to the last traded price before he died, and then paid everybody out based on that last traded price, with the understanding that if you were in a loss because of that, they at least refunded your loss. But if you were in a gain because of that, they essentially took your gains away. Now, I will say Kalshi's in a very complex position. I respect Kalshi. I respect the poly market overall, but I do voice my concerns when I think things are being potentially handled improperly. And my point on this market is that the issue is that these things aren't in isolation. You have tons of correlated markets, right? So there's another market. Will Kamani leave Iran, right? Well, Kamani died, so he can't leave Iran, right? But since he died, then can that market also not resolve, right? Because that's a pseudo assassination market as well, right? Or, for example, there is a market, who will be the first leader to be removed from office in 2026, right? The favorite was this guy from the Netherlands, but Kamani was on the list, right? So then do you not resolve Kamani to a yes, and then you just remove them? The tricky thing is that all those markets are connected. The probabilities all flow between each other, right? So you can't isolate out one market and not resolve it without all these unintended consequences. And the culmination of my point is that at the end of the day, there's anything that's attached to an individual can be considered an assassination market. Tesla, what would happen to Tesla's stock price if Elon Musk was killed? It would go down by a massive percentage, right? So does that make it? That doesn't make Tesla stock an assassination market, right? Or if I'm betting on NBA most valuable player of the year, right? And I'm on the no on Steph Curry, and Steph Curry dies in an accident, are you not going to resolve that market, right? Because he died. But you can't do that because there's other people in the markets that are going to be a yes, right? And the probability is going to flow to them. So the frustrating thing to me is, like, for example, if you bought Kamani yes, and then it spiked to 90 cents and you sold it before Kalshi closed the market, you get to keep the profits, right? It's only the people that held the position that then get punished, which doesn't make any sense to me whatsoever. And it's not just Kalshi. Polymarket had a similar one with a Nancy Guthrie related market. I understand these are like tricky situations, and I think they're getting a lot of media and government pushback against these kind of things.
This is the last thing they want is
Yeah.
this screwing up any potential regulation
Yes.
success they have. So like that's got to be first and foremost their priority in these scenarios, is to maintain relationships with both the government and public appeal.
Yes. And Wolfie just said, like, all of this is betting on war and deaths. Shouldn't be any of it, really. And once again, like, I understand that in the moralistic stance, but then we just have to look at things in the practical stance, which is like, for example, if you work for an oil company, right, heading into a conflict, you have to hedge out your oil positions. By hedging out your oil positions, you're not like cheering on for war and death, but you are trying to protect your positions. Or if you own stock in a defense company, are you betting on war and death, right? Or are you betting on a defense company? I understand that when you drill it all the way down to prediction markets that are binary on those things, it gets way more complex.
I just think it feels sometimes like, you know, the Middle East, if you don't live there, feels like a very far away place. But if it was like, well, let's take a country which is near, like if the United States enemies were able to get within distance, we'll be like, will this enemy country hit Texas?
Yeah.
I just don't think Americans would be betting on, like, or predicting whether that missile would hit Texas. And I think that's where the moralistic point of view kind of comes in, that the Middle East feels like it's like so far away, it's not anyone's problem. But if it was on your own, like if I saw a bet, like, would a missile hit London, I'd be feeling pretty shitty because I have friends who live there. So it's like I see both sides of it. Institutions are doing this all the time. They are always doing what you're saying, whether it's hedging out oil or hedging out other commodities or defense companies or anything that could be affected. You saw, lots of hedge funds have been selling out of missile defense. But then you have some institutions like pension funds that don't, directly buy oil, war, so I see both sides of this argument here. But I suppose the reason why, the comment of like Black Mirror came up, this feels like Black Mirror, is because retail has never been able to do it so easily, it's so fluid and so precise.
I would say Signal, though, if you looked at Polymarket and you saw, will a missile strike London, and it was at 30%, you could probably take that information and call your friends and say, you guys need to get out of London right now.
It's true. That is true. That is very true.
Like it sounds like dark and like messed up, you know what I mean? But also at the end of the day, I just look at it as pulling with money, right? Where it's just determining probabilities of things. And and a lot of people can correctly attach moralistic things to it, but it's also just like, pure raw probability, which like going back to the Iran markets, will the US strike Iran by March 31st? And it's at 72%. And you have a friend in Iran, you may be saying, hey, like, this is real. This is very real. You need to fly back home, and get out of here. I don't want you to be stuck in a war zone. And if pre-prediction markets, they just had news and stuff like that, they made it just may be like, I don't think it's going to happen. But you can literally say, hey, there's $500 million bet on this is going to happen. Maybe we should get out of there. But I do concede to you that there's very complex, like moralistic things. But then like I look at markets, for example, like will Iran close the Strait of Hormuz? And I've talked about this market for over 6 months now, saying this is actually something that's like a very useful contract for people out there. Like if you are an insurance company insuring tankers going through the Strait of Hormuz, right? And you're able to hedge out your risk, right? Like, because actually what's happening right now is the reason why tankers aren't going through the Strait of Hormuz is because Lloyd's in London, actually, I think, pulled all their insurance on it. So that the tankers aren't going because they can't get insurance to get through, right? Because like the risk is so high. Not saying that there was enough liquidity to do it, but in theory, Lloyd's could have hedged the probability of this happening via that contract, right? And then if it when it happened, they were hedged, so now they can still provide insurance and not get blown out. But yeah, I understand it can be very Black Mirror-esque and very dark, and
Yeah, but I see yours. I also understand your point. We say exactly follow the money. So, if you were looking at this as like, what is the probability that I need to personally stockpile on as much oil as I can for my car before prices go through the roof? Like, there's a lot of information there. So I appreciate that side of things. And, at the end of the day, what retail is able to do is nothing that institutions have not been able to do for a very long time.
100%. Like today, the Israel stock market's up 6%. Like I'm sure I'm sure if you pull up the options contracts executed on Friday in Israel, there's some people that thought something was going to go down, and they made a lot of money off of it. There was 9/11. There was a lot of controversy over traders that made trades on airline stocks ahead of that event.
Yeah, I suppose we have more transparency around the flow of capital in
and that's
markets.
My thing, Signal, is I'd rather it be regulated and allowed, where, for example, if someone is leaking classified information and buying on a prediction market, right? If it's regulated and known and transparent, you can, Israel actually arrested one of their soldiers for making $300,000 in Polymarket by using classified information to trade ahead of time. And he's in jail right now.
Is that true? 100% true? Interesting.
Yeah, he made money off of their strikes last year against Iran. And they were able to look at the blockchain, see where the money flowed back to the exchanges, subpoena the exchanges, found the leaker.
Interesting. Okay. Well, I mean, there's always going to be two sides to this. Like at the end of the day,
sure. It's just like the AI thing.
Exactly. And
the answer is probably in the middle, somewhere.
I agree. Somewhere between the black, the white, and the gray.
Shifting gears a little bit, staying on prediction markets. Anyone who took the Fed rate at 1.8 when we were talking about it on Saturday or on Friday of last week.
Didn't you say you were going to take it and you hope no one front ran you? I'm guessing you didn't take it.
You take it. Ran all the way up over 4%, 4.7. So a little 2x for anyone who followed that one. Back down still, but 2.8 cents. I'm probably just going to hold off at this price. I got away from me and didn't take it when it was like right after the show. Did something else, forgot about it, never came back to it.
That's an interesting one now, but that's an interesting one because of inflation, because of commodities.
Yeah.
Here is we have market open. We can at least reflect on this. Opened up pretty low and pulled recovered decently. We're looking at the S&P. Got down as low as under 6,800. Now it's 6,850, down 0.4% on the day compared to down.
How's gold?
Over at gold.
Oil's up.
Gold gapped up on the day, up 1%. Oil, I don't know what the best ticker for oil is here.
I just go to oilprice.com. That's what I look at.
Oil futures ran up and then back down.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, I heard that. It like pulled back. But it's also very dependent on, like, if this is off of US oil is not up.
And we had a lot of eyes on like CME futures opening on last night. We had market open this morning, but I mean, Hyperliquid front run everything, having oil on their HIP3 markets, gold on their HIP3 markets, trading throughout the weekend. So saw a ton of volume on those, and then Hyperliquid's been on a heater since Friday.
Nice,
up to almost $32 now.
Back in the green.
Yeah, so.
It's interesting, Ray, because even like a couple of weeks ago when we had that huge sell-off, we were talking about what to buy. Do you remember? About 3 weeks ago, after, no, more than that, 4 weeks ago, after Venezuela, we had a really, really strong sell-off. And I remember we were talking about Hyperliquid as a product still to get, gold. I remember saying buy gold and everyone was like, don't buy gold. And then, we've had this situation. I just think there's a lot more volatility to come this year. One thing that is happening right now is people are, the US, apparently rumors behind the Pentagon, people are kind of panicking how long this is going to go on for, because Venezuela was very much a precise mission, in and out, done very quickly. Well, the actual attack was done very quickly, but Iran is showing to be
Very different
showing it's
situation.
hard, very different situation. So more volatility, I think that is kind of a certainty in the next couple of months and for the rest of this year.
And if I can chill prediction markets one more time, you can actually use that as to gauge an idea of how long this conflict will go on. So there's a U.S.-Iran ceasefire by market. So by March 6th is at 6%. March 15th is at 23%. March 31st is at 47%. And April 30th is at 68%. So the market is pricing that that they think it's very likely to go on for at least 2 more weeks. As we approach the 30-day mark, it starts to become more likely that there'll be some sort of ceasefire.
I took March 2nd after Nick's breaking insider news on Saturday night, Sunday morning.
What was his breaking news?
He basically said there's a ceasefire coming.
Where was his sources? His brain?
He didn't reveal his sources.
He is Jewish. Maybe he has some inside Israelis.
I saw it and I took it at 9%. And I don't know if he moved the market. This market moved or there are bids being filled at 30 cents on the ceasefire by March 2nd. And I was
those short-term things, swing trading. I've learned my lesson that swing trading is very often the answer, but you can kind of get a little greedy when you think about riding it all the way up. I mean, I think Trump came out and said 30 days or less.
Yeah, so we'll see where that ends up landing. We've had a busy episode of the show today. We have to cut it here. Thanks, Sig. Thanks, Kix, for hopping on with us today on a quite a busy day. Thank you all for listening in the audience. We do this podcast Monday through Friday, 9 a.m. Eastern time. You can catch us on all major podcasting platforms, Spotify, Apple. You can also catch us over on YouTube, Zora, where we stream each and every day.